The Doppelgänger. It started as an ordinary evening for Emily and her husband, Mark. They had just finished dinner in their cozy suburban home, and Mark had gone to the kitchen to wash the dishes, while Emily relaxed on the couch, scrolling through her phone. The house was silent except for the sound of running water and the occasional clatter of dishes. Then something strange happened. Emily saw Mark walking past the living room and heading toward their bedroom. She glanced up briefly and acknowledged him with a small smile before returning her attention to her phone. A few moments later, she heard the sound of the bedroom door clicking shut. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until she heard Mark's voice from the kitchen. "Hey, Em, do you know where the dish soap is?" Her blood ran cold. Slowly, she turned her head toward the kitchen doorway. Mark was standing there, drying his hands with a towel, looking at her with a puzzled expression. "But you just went to the bedroom," Emily whispered, feeling her throat tighten with fear. Mark frowned. "No, I've been here the whole time." A chilling silence settled over the room as Emily's mind raced. She knew she had seen him. She was certain. Her stomach twisted as she looked down the hallway where the bedroom door was now slightly ajar. Mark must have noticed the fear in her eyes because he set down the towel and stepped closer. "Emily, what did you see?" She swallowed hard. I saw you. You walked past me and went into the bedroom." Mark's face paled. Without another word, he strode toward the bedroom and pushed the door open. Emily followed hesitantly, her heart hammering against her ribs. The room was empty. Nothing was disturbed, and there was no sign that anyone had been inside. Emily let out a shaky breath, but the unease remained. "Maybe you just imagined it," Mark suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. "A trick of the light or something." Emily nodded, though deep down she knew what she had seen. That night she barely slept, her mind replaying the moment over and over. The more she thought about it, the more she was convinced it wasn't her imagination. The second appearance, a week passed without incident, and Emily began to convince herself that she had been mistaken. But then it happened again. This time, Mark was in the garage working on his car. Emily was folding laundry in their bedroom when she heard footsteps in the hallway. She turned her head just in time to see Mark standing in the doorway. "Hey, can you come look at something real quick?" he asked. Emily let out a small laugh of relief. "Oh, you scared me. I didn't hear you come in." But something was off. Mark's expression was blank. His posture was stiff, unnatural, and his voice, it was slightly distorted, like a recording played at the wrong speed. Then she heard it. A loud clang from the garage. Emily's stomach dropped as realization set in. If Mark was in the garage, who was standing in the doorway? She didn't move. She didn't breathe. The figure's lips curled into a slow, eerie smile. A smile that wasn't Mark's. Emily let out a strangled scream and stumbled backward. The lights flickered, and when she looked back, the figure was gone. The investigation, Emily refused to stay silent about it any longer. She told Mark everything. Though he was skeptical at first, the fear in her eyes convinced him. They decided to install security cameras throughout the house, hoping to catch something, anything, that would prove Emily wasn't losing her mind. That night, they both stayed up watching the footage from the living room camera. At 2:47 a.m., the motion detector activated. A shadowy figure moved through the hallway. Mark and Emily sat frozen, watching as the figure, identical to Mark, walked toward their bedroom door and disappeared inside. But what made Emily's skin crawl wasn't just the sight of the doppelganger. It was the fact that, according to the timestamp, Mark had been sleeping beside her the entire time. The encounter, the following days, were a blur of paranoia and fear. Emily started noticing small things, objects being moved, doors that were open when they had been closed, whispers in the dead of night. Mark became irritable, snapping at her when she brought it up, but she could see the fear behind his frustration. Then, one evening, it escalated. Mark had gone to take a shower while Emily sat in the living room staring at the security monitor. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, perhaps just reassurance that nothing was there. Then the screen flickered. A figure stood in the hallway. Emily's breath hitched. She turned her head toward the hallway entrance, but it was empty. She looked back at the screen. The figure was staring directly into the camera. Her blood turned to ice. It was Mark. Or at least it looked like him. It lifted a hand and waved slowly. The bathroom door creaked open upstairs. Emily bolted. She ran up the stairs 2 at a time, reaching the bathroom just as Mark stepped out, towel wrapped around his waist. "What's wrong?" he asked, startled by her panicked expression. Emily grabbed his arm and yanked him toward the security monitor, but the screen was empty. Tears welled in her eyes. "I swear, I saw it. It was you." Mark pulled her into a tight embrace. "We need to leave," he whispered. The final night. They packed their bags that night, deciding to stay at a hotel until they could figure out what to do. As Emily hurried to grab her essentials, she caught a glimpse of something in the bedroom mirror. Mark. But the real Mark was downstairs. Slowly she turned. The doppelganger stood in the room staring at her. Its expression was devoid of emotion, its eyes empty voids. Then it did something truly terrifying. It spoke. "Why are you leaving?" The voice was identical to Mark's, but there was something hollow about it, something wrong. Emily didn't answer. She turned and ran. As she reached the front door, Mark grabbed her hand. "What's wrong?" She pointed back toward the stairs, but there was nothing there. They left that night and never returned. The aftermath months passed, and they started to believe they had escaped whatever haunted them. They moved to a new town, far away from the house. But the nightmares never stopped. And sometimes, just sometimes, Emily would wake in the middle of the night to see Mark standing by the window, watching, smiling. But when she called his name, he would stir from sleep, still lying beside her.